Hello, through this video you will have a perfect understanding on how to do a survey and also making the RPD design. So first of all, instruments. This is known as a surveyor. On this mounting we are going to put our cast, and with this rod we are going to survey as we are moving this mounting. And these are the mounting props that we are going to mount it on this tip of the rod. And this is the surveying rod. This is the carbon bar like a pencil, and this is the undercut gauge. We'll all go through how to use these instruments, and you can, depending on the surveyor that you're using, but in this surveyor we can place these surveying rods here on these holes. And we'll all go through each parts of this surveyor, how these nuts and nuts here work. You need a blue and red pencil, and you need a carver. But the smaller carver, like a clearly discoid, would be easier to work with the RPD design. And of course, you need a cast. If you look at this cast, do you think it can sit properly on this table? It is important to understand that the table is flat, and also it has 3 points engaging rods, and it has wheels that you can rotate. If you rotate it anti-clockwise, then it'll expand for it to accommodate the cast. And if you rotate this, you can angulate the mounting table like this. If you rotate it, it'll be loosened, and you can move it around, and then you can rotate it clockwise to fix it so that it'll be stable. So examine our cast. If you look at the cast, it has some projection here. Even though you want to mount it, you have to make it far extended, or you cannot accommodate it because it doesn't get stably mounted because of this projection. Even though it is mounted, of course you can fix it well somehow, but it is not, I cannot say that it is stable. It is good to prepare the cast in a nice fashion that it'll be mounted well on this mounting table. Another common mistakes that I see is the rough floor. If the floor of the cast is uneven like this, comparing to this, it is pretty rough, and then it has some projection, and it is it is unpleasant to mount it on the mounting table because we cannot stably sit it on the mounting table. So it is always important, recommended to make the bottom flat. Let's bring these ugly casts to be trimmed. Now you see the cast is well trimmed, and it is very seated stably. It doesn't wiggle, and we can engage the rods engaging bar very well. Preparation of the cast is not done. When there is some excess impression materials here, we need to remove carefully. That's why having smaller instruments is easier, so that you can remove those irregularities very well. And if you have any bubbles, remove those bubbles or anything that is interfering with the design outline. Now let's mount the cast. So rotate it anti-clockwise to expand this engaging bar, and then once you sit the cast, rotate it clockwise. to shorten this, and you will see that the cast is now being fastened on this table. Make sure that it is tightly fastened firmly, and then now it is the time to put this table, this mounting, on the Surveyor. Before we move on, I'm going to introduce the parts of the Surveyor. This is the knot that can fix the surveying rod. So if you rotate it clockwise, it'll engage, and you cannot move this one. You cannot move this bar. But if you turn it anti-clockwise, now then you can move this up and down. And here you will see also small knot, and you will see the holes underneath, that is opening and closing. I'll show you. See, if you rotate this anti-clockwise, you see that this is opening, right, moving back and forth. So in this hole, you engage the surveying probes, and then you rotate it clockwise. You will see that it is closing. Oh, it went all the way down. So hold it while you're inserting, and make sure that this solid straight part, not this constricting part, this solid part is being engaged, not being engaged, it is grammatically wrong, is engaged here on this engaging area, not like this. Okay, the constricted part should not be inside, but it should be seen outside, even showing the solid straight part, so that it will not be fixed like this or like this. Can you see that it is tilt? But it should be straight. Okay, make sure, because we don't want you to survey in a wrong angle. So now we are ready to survey. So you can move this mounting table like this, and as I showed you last time, you can turn this anti-clockwise to rotate it around and fix it clockwise. You are not going to touch it, because this one is to fix the cast on the mounting table. And now you can also adjust this one by rotating anti-clockwise. You can loosen it and you can move it up and down, and you can slightly engage it for you to be stably move it around. And then when you want it to be fixed fully, then rotate it clockwise. And you're not gonna touch until we change the surveying rod. So now I'm going to survey. So here you see that this is a pretty much ideal cast. So what I'm looking at is the undercut. So do you see that the separation, the light that comes through? Let me zoom it up more. Okay, good. So that is the known as undercut, and the space is the undercut area where we can engage our retentive arm. But we need to have an adequate undercut, which is about 0.01. So this is the 0.01 gauged bar or rod that can mark 0.01 area. Do you see some step here? This step, this is the like a ruler that it tells us that this is the 0.01. So anything that is under the undercut, if we can engage this one at this point, it tells us that this area is the 0.01. Okay, so basically before we fix the angulation of the cast, before we determine out the angulation of the cast, we are surveying first. So let's see whether this mounting is correct or good for us. So now this area, we don't feel like there is some undercut there, but I don't know whether it is sufficient enough. Usually it is important to understand where our retentive arms would be engaging. For this premolar, we are going to use the C clasp, so the retentive tip will be engaging on the meshobuccal. So we are surveying the meshobuccal area. I think it'll be better if we can give some more tilt. So I'm gonna rotate it and then tilt it slightly forward for me to find better engagement. Okay, there you go. So the more I tilt, I find more undercut. Okay, I'll show you the difference. If I tilt it the more undercut is created, right? If I make it straight up, then the undercut will be removed. So that's why we are moving this table here and there for us to find a good undercut. So I think I like this angulation, but not only here, we also need to look for the other side. So let's just fix the table and see whether we can get good undercut on the other side where we are going to engage our retentive arm. So I'll show you and tell me whether it is sufficient. Okay, so do you think it is good? Because I'm going to use the I bar for this canine, so I need a direct buccal area 0.01. So I think we have a sufficient undercut, right? So I like this. So let me move to 0.01 engaging survey tool. There are other measurements like 0.02, but for the metal arm, we use 0.01 like C clasp and I bar. So I now fixed it. You see that I am moving it up and down. That's why having a good resistance on this fixing wheel is important. If you fix it too hard, you cannot move. If you fix it too loose, it'll drop down whenever you are releasing your hand from this. So just this semi pressure, adequate pressure. So we have checked the area of undercut with the serving rod. Now we are going to use this gauge and then make a scratch on the area that it engages. Wait a minute. And also make sure that you are engaging this rod, like showing this junction. It should be seen, because if you put it all the way down, all the way inside, then it'll move. So we don't want it to happen. So we want this solid part to be engaged on this moving surveying rod. So now we see that there is some undercut deep enough to accommodate 0.01, and then move it slightly for us to leave a scratch. You can slightly hook it up like this. Hook it slightly, raise it for it to engage into 0.01. We marked on the cast. Do you see the mark? So now we mark the area with the blue pencil. Just a line. Since the eyebar will engage on the direct buccal area, we are placing the undercut 0.01 there, and on the meso buccal, the tip is engaging on the meso buccal area, and then hook it up. Hook it slightly and then move it sideways. And now we made a scratch there. Okay, now we change to carbon bar for us to mark all around the surface undercut. What I think is, in this school they teach you to do with this carbon bar first before moving on to the undercut gauge. But since I can picture the design that I'm going to do, so I'm just moving right away to the undercut gauge. But when you are using the carbon bar and also even other tools, make sure that it is always going along the junction, the most lowest part. Not here. If you are drawing here, you will mark this area, but we want to engage, we want to find the undercut, so we have to make this carbon bar tip to be at the base or the bottom of the tooth always. See that I am moving a rod at the base of the tooth. And also this canine, the cingulum area, it doesn't have an undercut though, cingulum area, but on here I'm constantly moving the black line that is drawn with the carbon bar is the height of contour, and the blue mark is the 0.01 undercut, and it is the same here. The blue line here is the 0.01 undercut, and the black line is the height of contour. You don't need to define the height of contour for every teeth, but only the teeth that will be used as a abutment on where the direct retentive arm will be placed. So now I change back to 0.01 gauge because I like this mounting. So I'm going to mark tripods. Tripod mark is important for us to reorient. So now we are going to fix this vertical spindle tightly. Before we find some good areas to mark. So now we have here we can touch this area, we can touch this area, and we can touch this area. Okay, once again, here we can touch this area, we can touch this area, and we can touch this area. Areas that are not interfering the design would be a good place to place the tripod marks. Tripod marks are the marks that will allow us to remount it. So once we are done, we send it to the lab, then the lab will use tripod marks to remount the cast. So it needs to be somewhere does not interfere, or it can interfere but avoid it to be interfering the design. So you need to determine the height. So probably, but even though you cannot find a good area, you should not turn this, because we made all the height of contour and the undercut basing on this angle, this mounting, right? So we should never turn this while we are doing tripod marking. So probably if I place the tripod marker here, it'll be in the middle of the lingual bar, and probably if I place it here, nothing will interfere. So I make a scratch. This is the scratch that I left there, and on this side here. So once I'm done with tripod marking, I'm gonna draw the cross, red cross, horizontal and the vertical. And for it not to be confused with design, I circle with the blue pencil. If you only put with red, then it'll be confusing with the design, because the metal framework design will be done with the red pencil. So we have to make it distinguishable. So we have placed the 3 tripod marks. So I'm going to show you how it does work. For instance, we end up we have lost the angulation that we set. So we place it here. Now we don't know at which angle we got these markings, right? So now we are going to find it. First, use this 0.01 inch gauge. Try to match along the horizontal line of the tripod marking, and set the mounting table slightly with the friction that you can move, but even though you take your hands off, it does not move. And then try to check with the second tripod marking whether it is matching. It is not matching, right? So which means that I have to elevate a little bit more and try to match. Then it goes lower, which means I have to move this vertical spindle a little bit lower. So I made it a little bit lower to find the balance between these two little lower. It is almost matching, but we can slightly increase it. It is matching here. How about this one? It is not matching, but almost close, so I'm gonna tilt that side. Or okay, now finally we got all 3 points at the same level, and then now I'm going to tilt this big wheel to fix it. Now it does move. Now we are working on this cast again to survey. This is how the tripoding works.